To our top story, and the World Health Organization is calling on Madagascar to revamp laws governing plague victims. Officials say the outdated protocol encourages a culture of secrecy and that actually helps to spread the disease. More than 140 people have died in the latest outbreak on the island, the worst in at least 50 years. CGTN's Vauldi Carelse has this special report.
This is where they bury the very poor in Madagascar, the people who had no one. It's also where they bury the plague victims. For their families, it makes the loss so much worse.
On this island, there are sacred rites for the dead. The body is washed, wrapped in a shroud, and placed in a family tomb. Those rites are denied to plague victims.
Mary, not her real name, is still struggling to accept what happened to her daughter. The little girl died at the start of the outbreak. Mary couldn't believe it was the plague, or that there'd be no traditional farewell.
We shared the same home with her. We took care of her for 4 days. I kissed her and held her. Why didn't I catch the disease? So we don't know what to say. We were really sad about what happened to our daughter. She was just wrapped in plastic. Just buried with plastic, without the clothes. They didn't even use the shroud.
Others simply refuse to hand over the body of a plague victim, exposing themselves and others to the disease. The bacteria lives on, well after the victim has died.
Municipal officials came to take the body, but my family refused, and then the whole neighborhood came to help. The officials then gave up and they left, telling us not to touch the body of my brother-in-law. The neighborhood said if they return to take the body, they will have trouble with us.
This clash between science and tradition makes containing an outbreak far more difficult. Plague breaks out here every year, yet the stigma is always present and the protocols for the dead outdated.
Can you imagine that now people who died from plague are burial like in 1938. The law to bury people who died from plague is a law made in place in 1938. Can you imagine? No. And now W.H.O. has proposed to the government and to the communities to see how we can give back to communities the body safe of the bacteria. And it is possible. It was done for Ebola, and we think that we have to do the same thing for plague. And also it put plague like a disease, a treatable disease and preventable disease. But now we have a big stigma around plague.
Madagascar is slowly containing this outbreak. The infection rate is slowing. There are fewer burials in the paupers' graveyard. But officials say they need to win the trust of the community if they're to one day finally banish the plague. Vauldi Carelse, CGTN, Antananarivo, Madagascar.